Huh, it is showing live on YouTube, though. Okay. So let's just talk this through here. This is the end. This is the end of the road right now. And shame on everyone else for being part of essentially complicit in murder, for being incapable of saying this, instead having parties and celebrating being right about Fauci or something. With Anthony Fauci being so visible right now, having this day of saying that he pleads the fifth on everything in Congress, there's a lot of enthusiasm that Fauci will go to jail and that he's somehow guilty of COVID, even though nobody yet has done the math on how many of the excess deaths that the United States had were drug overdoses as part of our opioid epidemic, as part of our lethally laced drugs on the streets, which found people, record numbers of people in the United States that were dealing with addiction to pharmaceutical products. Now, even if you were to subscribe to the belief that that would only be some of the approximately 700,000 to 900,000 additional deaths in the United States, even if you believe that, you're ignorant. You're I don't know what to say. You're choosing to overlook the largest loss of life event, second largest loss of life event in the history of the United States. It is bigger than COVID, numerically, even if you believe in COVID, just based upon the ages of the people that died. So there's no way around it. You're being deceitful, you're being dishonest, you're being misleading if you don't talk about the drug epidemic. And the fact that no one mentions it, I see as evidence that they know they needed the drug epidemic to fuel the COVID narrative. So with that said, what we showed yesterday, I can close that computer over there right now, is that there was a book that came out not long ago called The Real Anthony Fauci. And The Real Anthony Fauci is supposedly some expose tell-all about why Anthony Fauci is guilty of so many horrible things. And the book both suggests that Fauci totally made up AIDS, the AIDS epidemic, just made it up, just lied. But he also made a virus to cause it. He did both, magically. I don't know how you can do both. So the book is schizophrenic. It's self-contradictory. It is one of the worst books ever written. It has some truths in it, but it has so much nonsense it adds up to nothing worthwhile. In fact, the most useful thing about the book is that I can find inexplicable typos, such as David Hone being Davis Hone. And I know that's a typo because one of the people who helped write the book, Dr. Robert Malone, probably made it such. Anyways, this book came out of the Organization of Children's Health Defense, or CHD, Children's Health Defense, a United States organization where the celebrity star founder of it is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but in reality, he inherited an organization that was loosely correlated with concern about vaccine injuries from, or something like that, from somewhere else, maybe even mercury toxicity. And it became Children's Health Defense. Mary Holland, you can see here with probably the most lines through her, just above The Real Anthony Fauci. Mary Holland became the president of Children's Health Defense. And she played a large role in making sure that that book was written. Okay. And if you look at Mary Holland's Twitter feed, it's mostly focused on the book being right and about Anthony Fauci being bad. And Mary Holland sells herself as a mom who has a vaccine-injured kid. The vaccine-injured kid would be in his 30s by now. But she's still fighting, and she still thinks that something to do, her kid's autism, something to do with vaccines. And I don't know. I mean, how do I know without actually knowing the details of her child? But I do. But it is weird that she has a law degree, and she's been fighting for 20 years and has made zero progress other than to create skepticism and kick the can down the road. She's accomplished absolutely nothing. Anyways, running this organization, or being the president of the organization, they have accomplished next to nothing except talk about vague notions of medical freedom, which are also stupid. They are stupid because someone asked me a really tough question a couple of days ago. Was Anthony Fauci wrong to lock down the United States in response to, or encourage it anyways, in response to COVID. Now, I want to add a lot of information, but if I can't add anything else to that statement, my answer is going to surprise you. No, he was not out of line. If we are to believe that there are gain-of-function viruses running about that can happen at any moment and can kill everybody on the planet unless certain actions are taken, then he's not out of line. So based upon the mythology, Anthony Fauci is not guilty of anything. Based upon the mythology, Anthony Fauci did the right thing. Based upon the mythology, he acted appropriately. Based upon the mythology, he shouldn't be going to jail. So there you go. So he can't go to jail. So the mythology, if you think Fauci should be going to jail, then you have to also accept that there either was no COVID or it is a mythology. Because if there's a chance that there could be COVID, then Fauci's innocent. So therefore, time to shift the blame. And if we want to get into was there COVID, you have to start doing some math. You have to start looking to how people really died, and that's exactly what they don't want you to do. Anyways, this narrative that Fauci is bad, that's contained within this Real Anthony Fauci book that supposedly Children's Health Defense is leading, has never been criticized in a sense of who are these people who are writing this narrative. And Mary Holland's brother, Stephen Fauci, Stephen Holland, shown down below, works directly for Anthony Fauci. I didn't know that the person who wrote the Real Anthony Fauci book, her brother, her biological brother, her full biological brother, works for Anthony Fauci. In fact, Stephen Fauci can be found multiple references in the Anthony Fauci email dump. Stephen Holland can be found in the Anthony Fauci email dump. We were told it was CDC. There's people that have lied that Mary Holland had a CDC brother. No, he's NIAID, and he's been working for Anthony Fauci for 10 to 20 years. Mary Holland's family works for Fauci, and not like 10 levels down. I mean like 2 levels down. He's a director there. He's a senior director and has been working for Fauci for 10 to 20 years. She never mentioned it. Talk about conflict of interest. So this would mean that he should be outraged that his sister is smearing Anthony Fauci, his boss. But he doesn't say anything because he knows that his sister's job is to write a book that contains no useful, accurate information about Fauci. And then Amazon, which supposedly censors people, pushed that book harder than any other book. They'll give it to you 10 ways to Sunday. You can get it for free. You can listen to it. You can watch it. You can any hardcover, soft cover, mid cover, no cover, any way you want. They will make sure you can get that book. Strange. I thought there was censorship. Anyways, speaking of that, Mary Holland and Stephen Holland, shown way down below. I have a dash line because they are. Actually, that's not because they're siblings. I actually meant for this to be solid. Mary Holland's mother is Jimmy C. Holland, Jimmie, Jimmy C. Holland, who was, for all intents and purposes, one of the founders of psycho-oncology. What was that, brain cancer? And the study of how people emotionally respond to cancer. Kind of a big deal, given the fact that we have all this cancer running around. And she founded that department at Memorial Sloan Kettering MSK, shown in the middle with the big arrow right here. If I move fast, you can see it. Now, Memorial Sloan Kettering, for 40 years, had someone working for them named Stephen Fauci, who, yes, indeed, is the father of Anthony Fauci. So Anthony Fauci's father worked for 40-something years with Mary Holland's mom. So Mary Holland, who plays this big role in saying vaccines bad, they caused my son's autism, maybe, but I don't really know. She's working for RFK Jr. She's writing this book for RFK Jr. or overseeing the writing of the book, The Real Anthony Fauci. Her mom, for 40 years, worked with Anthony Fauci's dad. Well, 30 years at the very least. Meanwhile, her brother, Stephen Holland, down below, works for Anthony Fauci. Now, it gets even worse, folks, because shown here and is with the double lines is the father of Mary Holland. The father of Mary Holland, I think it's William Holland, who's married to Jimmy C. Holland. Now, the father of William Holland, his brother, or Mary Holland's uncle, is Albert J. Holland. Okay, Albert J. Holland. So Albert J. Holland is Mary Holland's uncle. Albert J. Holland was the former FDA medical director. But it gets worse. Okay, while with the FDA, he played a major role in the FDA's banning the use of hormones to stimulate animal growth and contributed to the streamlining of the FDA's new approval process. His brother James F. recalled. Okay, so James F. is the father of Mary Holland. Continuing on, let's see here. Continuing on, Dr. Holland, Albert Holland, the uncle of Mary Holland, whose father was as a judge, was an Army captain who served as the chief medical officer of the Atomic Energy Commission at Oak Ridge from 1946 to 1950. As the director of the Armour Pharmacy from 1950 to 54, he played a key role in the clinical developments of ACTH, or adrenocorticotropic hormone, a pituitary hormone that stimulates the adrenal gland, and was the forerunner of cortisone treatment. He was also vice president of American Home Products Corporation, that became known as Wyeth, on his retirement in 1974. So let's see here. So continuing out, let's go back over to the slideshow view here, okay? Mary Holland's uncle was the medical director of the FDA, which is like the number 2 position at the FDA. And the FDA is in the way, right? Because Mary Holland is also bringing in people such as Kevin McKernan to talk about FDA problems. Would have been nice if Mary Holland said that her uncle was the medical director of the FDA. Robert Malone his focus is getting stuff through the FDA as some inventor within the field of genetic medicine. Would have been nice if he mentioned this. Also, Brett Weinstein. Now, Brett Weinstein his name comes a lot. He has his own show, Dark Horse Podcast. Brett Weinstein's father, Les Weinstein, was the first United States intellectual property lawyer, patent attorney that worked for the United States Department of Justice Antitrust Division in the JFK administration. He was one of the key lawyers involved in the thalidomide case and involved in the FDA Modernization Act, the 1962 FDA Modernization Act, amendments, which was initially spearheaded by United States Senator Estes Kefauver. Estes Kefauver directly collaborated with Albert H. Holland Jr., who was for a while the director of medical trials, or the medical director, if you will, at the FDA. Estes Kefauver died on the Senate floor several weeks before JFK was assassinated. I think Estes Kefauver was one of our heroes in the United States of America. Nobody mentions this, though. Everyone just covers it up. It's just Fauci bad. They actually want you to believe that Anthony Fauci is running around with his own diary, with his own thoughts, and not under control of everyone else. Look at him. Just look at Anthony Fauci here next to Joshua Lederberg. So the fact that Albert H. Holland Jr. was really a medical director, was the medical director at Oak Ridge within the Atomic Energy Commission, means that he would have played a big role with the Atomic Energy Commission's relationship with Memorial Sloan Kettering. Remember, the Memorial Sloan Kettering MSK Cancer Division was given its earmarks and its philanthropy from Sloan and Kettering in 1945, the day between the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So the Atomic Energy Commission, Manhattan Project, whatever you want to call it, is entrenched within the MSK. And Albert H. Holland, the uncle of Mary Holland, was probably one of several conduits through which the Atomic Energy Commission had connections to medical trials, cancer-related, that were ongoing within Memorial Sloan Kettering. Of course, all this stuff is protected by DOE, Department of Energy contracts. Anyways, at Memorial Sloan Kettering, because Mary Holland's mom worked there for 30, 40 years, Mary Holland's mom working for her was Marguerite Lederberg. Marguerite Lederberg was also was basically co-authored books with Mary Holland's mom. Mary Holland's mom wrote the preeminent book on psycho-oncology with Joshua Lederberg's second wife. It's not they worked together. They were worked together for 30 years. They knew each other longer than I've known my wife, and we've been married 25 years. They co-authored books together. In other words, Mary Holland most likely dined with Joshua Lederberg. The person that wrote the book, The Real Anthony Fauci, which is total bullshit, probably dined with Joshua Lederberg on multiple occasions. And nobody has talked about this yet. It's most likely Anthony Fauci is a little bit on the slow side, just a little bit on the slow side. And he was recommended for the job through a network of people at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And you are expected to believe that Anthony Fauci has his own independent thoughts, has a diary, and is just his own person. Not the fact that he was hired by a much bigger machine. And in fact, this highlights that even the preeminent book that we are supposed to believe is the real expose on Anthony Fauci is in fact coming out of the very same network of people that picked and groomed and manages Anthony Fauci. That's how seriously twisted this all is. And how sad is it that nobody has talked about this yet other than me? That's it. That's it. This is the only place you can get it. I don't want to be that only person. I'd rather be, just doing some other research, getting back to carpentry, getting back in shape. I got all this email. I got letters I've had written to me, people who support my program and love me, and they're probably wondering, I don't want to be this far behind in this and in this deep. I'm so sorry. If other people were doing something even akin, even if they were just doing their job poorly, I could back off a little bit, but I can't take the foot off the pedal. What am I supposed to do? Meanwhile, the very name that was misspelled, David Hone, it was misspelled as Davis Hone, is a person that worked with Robert Malone at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency regarding the creation of this fake program, and I think it's all a joke, called Domain, which is meant to do some type of spectrometry, or I don't know. It's not my field. It'd be weird if I understood everything. I'd be pretending, and I'm not pretending. But again, what are they using? Are they using algorithms that are similar to some of the AI stuff that was developed by Joshua Lederberg and his network years ago? I don't know. Very possible. So this is the end. This is the end of the line right here. You've been misled. We were all tricked. We're all tricked. And the only way out of it. Oh, yeah. And then the opioid epidemic. And then if you want to know how bad the opioid epidemic is right now, what I'm also suggesting is the opioid epidemic, the angel mom, Ann Elizabeth Fundner, who was with Trump and General Flynn on the day that her son died, she was on the other coast, is, I believe, lying about the death of her child. Her child is fine. He's somewhere in military intelligence right now. She lied about it in order to become a controlled angel mom for the opioid epidemic, who would never listen to someone like me, who can't be contacted by someone like me, who has muted somebody like me, because we actually do have a child that died in the drug epidemic. Meanwhile, Robert Malone, working with the likes of Roseanne Barr and what's her name, Laura Logan, has created a fake fentanyl test company to further double down on the illusion of this Ann Elizabeth Fundner, who may not know, who knows, of course, her son isn't dead, but doesn't fully understand why she's been asked to lie about it. That's the way you have to control people. If you tell people why they're lying, they're going to start thinking about it. They can't know. I don't think Anthony Fauci is allowed to know what's going on around him. So there's nothing about him that can be exposed. Nothing that's going to help. Absolutely nothing. The only way to, if you think Fauci is that bad, that evil, you have to look at the people that wrote the book, because the book itself is the psyop. Meanwhile, Robert Malone is definitely part of the manipulation, creating these fake programs like Domain and ensuring that the opioid epidemic doesn't get the attention it deserves, or just blaming it on China or something. Meanwhile, Children's Health Defense is working with someone that is covering up the opioid epidemic. Children's Health Defense, which has a job of protecting the lives of children, won't talk about America's drug epidemic because they are counseled and funded by people whose job it is for Americans to not know that their COVID pandemic was behind the scenes a drug epidemic and people getting killed with hospital protocols and the population pyramid such that a few more people were going to die anyways, and some people died with needless experimental injections, probably because some of them were real and many were just placebos. Think of how sick that is. Children's Health Defense is part of the opioid epidemic cover-up, opioids which have killed kids. How is that? How's them apples? That's how bad it is. So you have a choice. I would like to say you could trust channels A, B, C, and D, aside from Jonathan Cooey, PhD. Joe Marshall, when he streams, he's taking some time off right now. I think that's a good thing. There is nobody else. Everyone else is lying. They are so lost. There's no excuse, or they're just lying. You have a choice. You can take this message, try to boil it down a little bit more, spread it, share it, get in other people's faces. Might be time to give some people some knuckles for Christmas, because this message should have gotten out there by now, but it doesn't, because most people are just too busy, taking the money which comes with celebrating the fake heroes. And in turn, that's what kills people, not Anthony Fauci. It's not Anthony Fauci. Matter of fact, Anthony Fauci might be one of the most innocent people on this whole screen here, along with RFK Jr. I don't think he knows his ass from his elbow sometimes. But anyways, you have a choice. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Sorry, I don't know what the heck is going on with Twitch. Thank you. Take care. I'll try to get back to my reading so I can just be more relaxed and more positive.